Hey guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Okay, so if you follow my channel regularly, you know that as kind of like a prelude to this buddy read / class that I'm gonna do on Chuck Palahniuk in September, or starting in September, for the month of August, I decided that we were gonna read the collected works of S.E. Hinton, or maybe a few of her books. So I decided to start with The Outsiders. When I was in high school, all of my friends read The Outsiders. They loved the book. They loved the movie. I had never read the book. I had never seen the movie. I still haven't seen the movie. That's my plan for this weekend. And, it was something that was kind of on my bucket list of reading that I had always wanted to... that's a really good idea for a video, my bucket list for reading. And it had been like a book that I had always wanted to read, and I knew that it was real short, and I had picked it up at the bookstore before, and I was like, oh, Ponyboy, and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get into this. It's very similar to, I've worked with teenagers all my life, and teenage boys always love the book Hatchet, and I have tried to get into that book so many times, and I'm just like, I can't do it. And actually, I just pulled it out of my basement, 2 days ago, because I'm like, I'm going to finally sit down and read Hatchet, and I'm sure, like The Outsiders, I will probably end up loving it. Because, let me tell you, I went into this book with very few expectations. I honestly was 2 pages into it, and I thought, I am not gonna like this book whatsoever. Let me just say this real quick. If you're doing the buddy reads with me, and you're reading it along with me for the month of August, save this video until you've read the book, because I'm not gonna kill it with spoilers, but I don't want to ruin things for you if things slip out. So, all my reviews are spoiler free. That being said, if you're doing the buddy reads with me, I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are after you read the book. So stop the video and wait and watch it once you've read the book. So anyway, I was 2 pages into this, and I didn't dislike it. It's interesting because I'm a huge movie lover, and so I'm just a lover at heart. I always am reminded of certain movies. And did you guys ever see Texasville? I can't think of what the first one is called. Somebody's gonna yell it out. Every time I ask a question, you guys are so wonderful. You always comment in the section below. It was so funny because I mentioned this video or this movie about this Salem witch thing, and somebody put, "I'll be waiting for you," and I was like, yes, that's what it is. And I actually own it on VHS tape in my basement. My basement has so many hidden secrets. So anyway, this reminded me, The Last Picture Show is what this reminded me of. And also American Graffiti a little bit, because it talks about the greasers and all that kind of stuff. So when I started reading it, I was like, I don't really love that era. That's not one of my favorite eras, the late 50s, early 60s, which I think is when this takes place. Maybe earlier, early 60s. And it was published in, I think, 1967. So I'm assuming around that time, maybe a few years before that, is when it was supposed to take place. It came out originally, 1967 by S.E. Hinton. And I actually tweeted her and she tweeted me back, so that was kind of cool. But anyway, and then within the first 4 pages, she drops all these names of his gang or who he hangs out with, all of the greasers, and there was literally 6 names. And so I am a character-driven reader. I don't really care so much if it's got this fantastic plot, as long as the characters are people that I can get into. And her characters were just rushing at me, in the beginning. They were this and that and this, and he's my brother, and this is what he looks like. And I just was like, oh my God, too much. I had to go back and reread those pages over again. And I was like, okay, Peter, so this is crazy, but I wanted to get this book done by the end of this week, because I said that I was going to have this book done by this weekend. So I was like, I'm gonna finish this book by Sunday. So it's Friday and I'm doing the review, so let me just explain. So on Wednesday night, I sat down and I was like, okay, it's 180 pages, so that's roughly 50 pages a night that I have to read, 45, 50 pages a night. So I sat down and I started reading it, and within by the second chapter, I was so taken by the characters and so in love with Ponyboy as a character. He's just so endearing and sweet, but hard and rough at the same time. And it's interesting because she doesn't put tons and tons of detail in her books. I think that today a lot of times we believe that books must have like all of this like graphic detail to understand somebody, like what kind of chewing gum they have, and you know, all this kind of craziness. Like, do they have a barrette in their hair, and like, you know, what kind of car they drive, and I've even tended to do that in the books that I've written, and I don't know that I think that's important, obviously. I mean, when you look at works like by F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hemingway and S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders is a good example of this. Detail and character is left somewhat to the imagination of the reader, but at the same time, there is enough boundary set that you understand really who the main character is. And Ponyboy is so lovable as a character that I just like instantly wanted to know his story. And the other thing that's interesting is she does these cliffhangers. And I'm not going to ruin anything for you, but I see if I can. He says, like the end of every chapter, he'll say something like, "Man, I thought if I had worries like that, I'd consider myself lucky. I know better now." So then it makes you want to read on to like find out, well, what happens that makes his life so bad, right? Because when the story opens, here's the here's the logistics of the story. So Ponyboy is 14 years old, just 14, and they live in, I think, Oklahoma. And I'm probably wrong about that. Does it say on the back where they're from? Anyway, let me know. I think it's Oklahoma. And he has a best friend named Johnny who has been jumped by this social group that are very like clean cut, Madras shirts, rich kids on the other side of town. And so then Ponyboy gets jumped at the beginning of the book, and it's kind of like this warfare that goes back and forth between the two groups, but not so much like West Side Story. I mean, it's much deeper and much more emotional than that. It's really about what pulls like at his heartstrings as like, who is he as a person, and why do these, you know, like economic boundaries like separate us as human beings. And there's actually this whole thing that's done throughout the whole book, and I don't want to ruin it for you, that it'd be like if you're laying on your back looking at the stars, no matter what part of town you live on, the stars look the same. And it's kind of similar to that. And it's really cool how he does it. Yeah, so when it starts, he's talking about his brothers and his oldest. Okay, so his parents have died in a car accident, and he lives with his oldest brother, Derry, who could have gone on to college and all this kind of stuff. But he has to take care of he and his brother, who his other brother's name is Soda Pop, and Soda Pop is like very good looking. And they both have like, look at my hair, not beautiful. They both have like, that happened like so apropos, didn't it? But they both have like beautiful hair, and they're really good looking. And in fact, like Ponyboy doesn't think he's very good looking, but the whole time like people compare him to Soda Pop. And so that's like S.E. Hinton's indirect way of talking about like low self-esteem. It's just incredible how she does this stuff. So anyway, an event occurs that forces Ponyboy and Johnny to go on the run. And you kind of see it coming. I mean, the story is not like this great mystery. I mean, everything that happens, I kind of knew it was going to happen. But what I didn't expect was the emotional response. And I'm a big crier in books anyway, you guys. But there were literally like 3 times in this book, and the last 2 pages especially, where I just totally lost my shit. Like, I was sobbing on the last 2 pages. I mean, I literally was on the outside in the patio reading it. And I was like, and do not jump to the end of this book, because the last sentence will ruin the entire book for you. Because in the last sentence, Ponyboy explains like the whole premise of this book. So, which, I mean, I kind of knew, but like, I love that genius. And the other thing is that you kind of see from this book, like, I kept on thinking like John Green has stolen some of her stuff. Like, there's a lot in The Outsiders that's taken and developed more in John Green's books. And it's interesting because I haven't heard John Green talk a whole lot about The Outsiders as any kind of like influence on him, but there's definitely elements of The Outsiders in John Green's books, especially Looking for Alaska. Definitely Looking for Alaska. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Just the language that goes back and forth between, you know, all of these characters in there, and the way they describe them. Like, there's this character named Dally Winston who is like the meanest of the mean, but he's very protective of them too. And just like the scene where they're like at the drive-in and you can like actually see them sitting there, like, I don't know, like her scene development is so on point that you like get taken into the story. Like you really feel like you're part of the story and that Ponyboy is sitting across from you telling you this story. So I kind of wish I had read it in high school. That being said, I think had I read it in high school, it would definitely be a reread for me at this point in my life because it's so beautiful that at 44 years old, I definitely have a different take on it than I would have had I read it at 16 or 15 or 14. Or even 25, I think. Because the way that Ponyboy looks at the world is definitely from the point of view that somebody's been through a lot of shit, okay? Like, you can tell he is, like, I mean, he doesn't just say he's had a tough life. And I love that this isn't gonna ruin anything. There's this back and forth between the word tough, T-O-U-G-H, and T-U-F-F. And the differences in what those words mean. And tough means like cool, and tough means like I've had a hard time. So it's interesting like how she uses that because he's had a really tough life. And it was funny because I, a couple years ago, became friends with this guy that I went to high school with, and we went to like junior high and high school, and I did not know him in high school, even though we were in several classes together. He was like the quarterback, the guy that everybody wanted to be, the gorgeous girlfriend. I mean, he had it all. And, you know, I don't know that I was jealous of him. I don't even know that he was really on my radar. He definitely wasn't somebody that bullied me. But we were talking because we kind of became friends. And I said to him, I said, you know, you have no idea really, like, how hard high school was for me. Like, it was super, super tough, like, on a daily basis. And he looked at me and he said, why do you think your experience was any different than mine just because our points of view were different? And I thought, oh, my God, like, you know, maybe high school is tough for him, too. And that with his point of view or where he came from just was completely different, but he still had some of the same obstacles, if that makes sense. And that's really what this book is about, is that at our core, we're all just human beings. And I loved it for that. I mean, I love when we just break down, you know, all different kinds of diversity and, you know, hatred, and we, at the core, we're just human beings. I love Soda Pop. I love Johnny. But as a sub-character, I have to say, Randy was probably one of my favorite characters. Just the change that he has throughout the book and the lessons that Soda Pop learns from him. So, not Soda Pop, Ponyboy. These names, you guys. I mean, for real. I loved him reading the book, but I was like, I loved him reading the book, but I was like, and he kept on saying throughout the book, too, like, that's really my name. It's on my birth certificate, and so is Soda Pop's. And I thought, what parent in their right mind, especially these parents are supposed to be so nice, in 1960s Oklahoma names their kids Ponyboy and Soda Pop? I mean, seriously, I love that today. I mean, if my friend told me that she was naming her baby Soda Pop, I'd be like, you right on, sister, I love that. But, I don't know, maybe. I think it's cute. Are there a lot of sodas and Ponyboys out there since this book? I mean, you know how like something in popular culture takes and then everybody names their baby that? I mean, it would be so funny if like people started reading this book again and then like the best baby name of like 2017 was Soda Pop. I would love that. But anyway, I think this book is absolutely fantastic. If you have not read it, please, please, please read it. I think it's an experience that every reader should have. I absolutely fell in love with these characters. I'm sure at some point in my life I'll reread this book again. And for next month, or for the last 2 weeks of this month, I already have it over there. We are going to read her other novel, That Was Then, This Is Now. So if you'd like to reread that with me for the last 2 weeks of the month, go get it. It's super short, and I'll read it, and then I will do a review at the end of the month about that as well. So, I love you guys. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Why not? It's free, and you don't even have to watch my videos. And follow me on all my social media, and send me messages, emails, tweet me, all that kind of stuff. I try to respond to all of it. Yeah, I love you guys. Bye.